EduTechGuys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed under the site and its programs are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.
Welcome to another episode of EduTechGuys, brought to you by Southwest Arkansas Education Cooperative and Hope Public Schools, located in Hope, Arkansas. Although today we are spread out all over the place. This is going to be awesome. I am David in Ark, and I'm actually coming to you from Prescott, Arkansas.
And I'm waiting for the
I'm coming to you
lag.
from Hope, Arkansas.
The lag, man.
Yes, exactly. It's like, is he going to
Little
jump
bit of
in?
lag.
Is it going to be me?
I gotta turn the lights off and light some incense in here. Just a second.
Oh.
Where are you coming from, Greg?
Big town of Blevins with our Olympic-sized swimming pools and our skyscrapers. I think we have like a total of 345 people in the town. So yeah, big town of Blevins.
What we do, our special guest today is Andrea Keller. We actually met, most likely, if I remember correctly, we actually met through Clark, which, as our regular listener knows, I've met a lot of the folks that we've brought in through Clark. But then we connected at one of the pod stocks, and we've been EduTech buddies ever since. So she's going to be here today, and we're going to talk about connecting classrooms, and also going to talk about incorporating technology for multi-ability students in classrooms. So lots of cool stuff.
Yeah, let me try and change computers.
Okay, we can do that. That's cool.
Adapt and overcome.
That's right. Monitor and adjust. Andrea's back in. I see she's muted, so I don't know if that's hers or I don't know who. Are you back in now? Are you good?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
That's much
Yes. Oh, hey, and there's no popcorn. That's all.
Yay! Okay,
Well,
so
unless you want popcorn, sorry.
sadness of the Chromebook. It's sad. The Chromebook does not work. Well, it does work, just it's not the best connection.
But I'm gonna have to come steal your base off of your wall. I love it. I've got my bases hanging on the wall too, but that's
Well, they're not mine. There's the other ones.
that's cool. Some Eddie Van Halen guitars in there. That's awesome.
Yes, I'm a big Van Halen. Not me. However, this one's for sale.
I see it's a Pink Floyd there. That's freaking
It is Pink Floyd. It's all signed and everything
That's awesome.
Holy.
by Roger Waters himself. Yep.
That's cool.
And those of you listening on Mixler, sorry you cannot see this awesome guitar in a frame with Pink
It's a
Floyd
bass.
and autographs and
Don't-
all 9 yards. That's
Guitar.
awesome.
Lots of guitars.
Lots of guitars.
They're not mine.
Well, cool. We were just talking. We are going to be at AESA next week in New Orleans, and we're pretty excited about it. What else is cool is it's Thanksgiving tomorrow. So this is our Thanksgiving show. We're glad to have Andrea on for the Thanksgiving show. I should have had a turkey graphic up there. I'll work on that while we're talking. So,
We'll just put your picture.
but now
Oh.
that we've got I see. Now that we've got everything sorted out and situated on the show, let's jump to David. David, give our guest a proper intro from EduTechGuys.
A proper intro. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to this is Andrea Keller. You can actually find her online in a couple of places. One, busybeemusings.blogspot.com. Also, busybeeideas.blogspot.com. And you can follow her on Twitter at AKBusyBee. And that the B is all spelled out, B-E-E, like a busy bee. There you go. So we're going to let Andrea reintroduce herself. Tell us a little bit about you, where you're teaching, what you're doing, all that kind of good stuff.
Well, I am lucky enough, and I've had off the whole week for Thanksgiving break. So it's kind of nice. So I haven't had to work all week. I am in Dallas, Texas, Irving, Texas, but I'm originally from Amarillo, Texas. But right now, I'm an instructional technology specialist in an elementary school. So I work with K through 5 teachers and students. And before that, I was a life teacher which is living in a functional environment. So students with disabilities, various disabilities, kindergarten through 5th grade. So never a dull moment. And I'm about to start my master's to become a librarian.
Cool.
So, and that's why the Busy Bee, that's my name, the Busy Bee.
I can see where you earned that or gave it to yourself, one or the other. Absolutely. Cool. Well, a couple of things that we're going to talk about. We want to talk about connecting classrooms and connected classrooms. And then later we'll talk about multi-ability students in classrooms, which sounds like it kind of even ties into what you were doing under life. So that's I think that'll be very cool. I don't know how much you've listened to any of the previous shows, but basically what we'll do is we'll talk about connected classrooms for a little while, and then we'll take a little musical interlude. I think Jeff actually has a new group we're going to be listening today, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. We'll monitor and adjust, and then after music, then we'll come back for the second half of the show. So we definitely appreciate you taking some time out of your week off to join us here today. And so I guess jumping into connected classrooms, generally speaking, what are some of the things that schools, when you're working with schools, what are some of the things that they want to know before they get going, or as you're in those very early stages, like even when you're, for lack of a better word, defining what is connected classroom, what are they looking for?
I think one of the big things they're looking for is to know that it's okay that if it messes up, because just like technology, just like today, technology is going to possibly mess up. And so that is the biggest fear for teachers. They're like, oh my gosh, what if it messes up? It's not perfect, because life is perfect, right? All the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Exactly. So I think one of the biggest things is, and also, we're a big testing society right now. So teachers want to give those opportunities, but then they're like, how in the world can I fit this into my schedule? Because I have to, in Texas, we're the TEKS, Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. So we're not Common Core because we're in Texas. Anyway,
Right.
I'm not affiliated with anything like that. But so that's one thing that teachers, they look at. They're like, how am I supposed to fit this in? And how does this fall along with my TEKS? But if you start really connecting those classrooms, they're like, oh my gosh, my kids just learned geography. They actually might know where that state is now because they talked to somebody in it.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
But it really is. It's the fear and the time that I've noticed the most with teachers in connecting classrooms. And I think too that they think connecting classrooms is that it has to be a video conference or it has to be a mystery Skype, when there's so many other ways. I mean, we had pen pals forever, and that was fine. So why is that not okay to connect classrooms anymore? I think they just see that really big ordeal, and they're like, I can't do it because it's too much. In reality, it's not that much at all.
Yeah, you break it down to kind of relieve some of those fears from the team. Right.
Well, it's funny because when I do start talking to teachers, I'm like, you know what you need to do first? You need to find that teacher across the hall that you're already friends with, and that's who you video conference with, or that's who you try it with. And they're like, but it's just across the hall. Yes. And so that way you can practice, because practice is good.
Yes, it is across the hall. Let's start with that.
Exactly. So you can see what's going to happen with the Skype, or what's going to happen with the Google Docs or the Google Hangouts. So that's a very great way to start. That teacher across the hall that you're already friends with, and they won't judge you too much because they're both trying, so it's okay.
That's right. That's really the key thing. I mean, that's like what happened today, like what happened a couple of weeks ago. Things are going to go wrong, but you just get in there and you try it anyway and see what happens. And if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, then monitor and adjust, or find some other way to do that, or
because then you have
worst case scenario, give it up. But
well, that's what you have to do. Like, I tried it and it didn't work, but they didn't test it out first. They didn't really do some steps beforehand. So of course it's not going to work how you want it to.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So when you're working with the teachers, you've kind of gone over some of the basics, and you're trying to tie these into the TEKS and other standards. I mean, I'm presuming,
Right.
and maybe this is, I don't know, right, wrong, or indifferent, but you should, I'm presuming you actually, you work with folks in all kinds of different places. So they may be Common Core, they may be whatever their local state standards are, whatever they are. As you're working with the teachers to help them get connected, are there, how do I word this? Does the goal or connection determine what you kind of, I don't want to say push, but direct teachers to use? For example, in some cases, Hangout's going to work better, or in other cases,
Right.
a Skype is going to work better, or whatever.
So when I first started video conferencing, I'm going to go back to my first years of teaching. I like to try new things, and especially in my little classroom I had of special needs students. So these students are the ones that didn't necessarily get invited to birthday parties, didn't necessarily get invited to do things outside of school. So I really wanted to push connecting classrooms, because this way I could connect my students with other people and other places and break down those four walls, and they would have that same opportunity as anybody else would. So I was that teacher who didn't try first. Worst idea ever. So, because you just on a video screen, they're like, yeah, I'm here. And you try video conference, it's bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. So, like I said, just when I'm talking with my teachers, especially if they're ones that want to start out to do something, I start small. And that's where I learned, like I said, in my class, because we used to video conference with Kimberly Wright's classroom. So we would she would read us a book. She's one of my EdTech friends as well from El Paso. She'd read us a book. I said the first time. So just like we have to teach ourselves good social scenarios, we have to teach our kids that same way too. What's appropriate to do online? Like I wrote social stories for my kids. So when we're in a video conference, you sit, you listen, and you wait your turn. Every adult need that as well. You sit, and you wait your turn. Anyway, so and that's why I really and then I had, though, that once I became an ITS, I could go back and say, guys, I know y'all are saying you can't do this, but let's be real here. My students that have various abilities, autism, Down syndrome, lots of different things, were totally capable of connecting classrooms.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me excuse. So I'm able to use that in working with teachers. I said too, I start small. Maybe it is just sharing a book, or maybe just sharing what projects they did, because many classrooms, like there's a lot of good things online. Like Jennifer Wagner has one, the Pumpkin Seed Project. A lot of teachers sign up for it, so she connected classrooms. Well, guess what? All they did for their video conference is they shared what their pumpkin looked like compared to what the other pumpkin looked like. They look kind of the same, but that's okay. Only took like 10 minutes to do, but they were able, that classroom then was able to map it out, where they were, who they were talking to. I think it's somebody in Wisconsin maybe, and they could take that on. So maybe they didn't necessarily get tons of stuff for our TEKS inside the video conference, but afterwards, though, they could do a math lesson on how many miles it was away for who they were talking to. They actually could map it out and use it for social studies. Then they could do like a follow up and talk about like the weather and doing compare and contrast. So there's lots of different things you can do after a video conference, or leading up to connect, or not necessarily even a video conference, or connecting up to a connected classroom.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful example. And before before Google Hangout became popular, and all the other different ease of technology that we have now, we were doing interactive, and in fact some schools still do the interactive virtual field trips and interactive classrooms, and with all the big expensive equipment and all this stuff, and of course those days that's what you kind of had to do.
Right.
And we connected with several folks, and that was you hit the nail on the head. There was the stuff that you covered before, and then yes, there's stuff during that may or may not directly apply, but then afterward, the follow-up, you tie it also back in. So that's
exactly
excellent.
Exactly. And there's so many companies these days that will chat with your kids. So like if I had a group that was working on like economics, whatever. Well, here, let's connect you with, like, I talked to the Sphero people last year. They're awesome because all you can do is pick a company. All I can do is say no,
Right.
Most of the time, so they want to talk to the kids, they want that ability to. I said sometimes not, but a no is a lot easier. It's so easy to say yes or no.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, and I think if when you present it to folks, and of course I'm totally off the cuff here with this, but I would imagine, and you can you can confirm this or deny it, whichever way. But my thinking is, though, if you were going to connect with somebody, like you said, you connected with Sphero. If I wanted to reach out to whoever, somebody at Microsoft or somebody wherever. If as you're working that out and you say, hey, look, we're just going to connect in, it's just going to be 10, 15 minutes. I'm not going to take up a big chunk of your day. Would you mind talking to the kids about, in your case, like economics, talk about, World War II, whatever it is that you're connecting with them, whatever they're doing, they're in, they talk about it, they're out. And really, of course, as we have experienced ourselves on this show, a lot of times, we'll get somebody in and was like, oh yeah, you're going to, we'll bring in for 10, 15 minutes. And next thing we know, the whole show is gone. So I'm presuming that it's very similar to that as you're reaching out to folks.
It is. And I said, and all they can do is say no, but that's where I tie in those teaks as well. So maybe I know that, like I said, they're working with, they want to, because that was a toy company, they're creating their own toys. Or maybe they're trying to create games. Well, I want to look at the big game companies, or maybe even not necessarily the big game companies. If I've got connections, I use the Twitters. But if I've got connections in a small company, why, of course they're going to want to talk to you because they're a small company. They want to get their name out there.
Right. Sure. Absolutely. And, these days, there's nothing to say that small company that, a handful of, relatively speaking, a handful of people have heard of, all of a sudden, Google's buying them for $4 billion. And they're like, where'd these people even come from? And your kids go, oh, we were talking to them. We knew that company before.
Exactly.
So, tech-wise, what's the biggest tech that you're using right now that's working for you in the classroom to do that right now? What's your big piece?
For connecting classrooms? So I love the Google Hangout, but here's our little caveat in our district. We're a Google Apps for Education district, which means that my Google Apps cannot talk to somebody outside of my district. So I said, so we've had some workarounds. I won't, if you really want to know my workarounds, email me and I'll let you know. I do like the dishes that I'm working. But also Skype is great because what's nice about Skype is you can actually leave video messages, which is kind of cool. So if you're connecting with that classroom that's in like Kenya or a totally different state, you can leave little video messages, especially if you do mystery Skypes. And the interesting thing about mystery Skypes, make sure, like, I'm in Texas, I might or might not have an accent. So when you're doing mystery Skype, make sure that you take your flags down, because in Texas, we're really proud of our flags. So remove the flags from any videos. Also change your little screen name so it doesn't have where you're from next to it, and really work on the accent. But just a little bit of information that I've learned over time.
I'm not even sure what you're talking about. Here in Arkansas, we have no accent. So
I see. I couldn't tell.
So mystery Skype. I've heard about mystery Skype. Stoney Evans, who is the media director for Lakeside Public Schools and Lakeside, Arkansas, Hot Springs, Arkansas, he does a lot of that too. That would be a good one for you to hook up with. I'll have to send you his information. You guys would have a good time talking this stuff. But tell us more about mystery Skype. I don't know what that is. Mystery guest.
So mystery Skype is pretty much like you're playing 20 questions. There's tons of different blogs out there that tell you exactly how you should run one, but it's pretty easy going as long as you don't tell them where you're from. The kids have to figure it out. But how we've done it is, and actually too, you can also do mystery numbers. If you're that kindergarten teacher, like, my kids can't do mystery Skype, that's cool. Let's do mystery numbers. And yet they have to try to figure out your number. It's a great one too to do between classrooms, that mutual friend of yours across the hall. But Mystery Skype, though, is you're going to have 1 or 2 question askers, and then you have people that are in the background looking at maps and plotting out where we've already said yes or no to. Yeah, people in the background that are actually typing up questions into Google Doc as questions are answered, so they can follow along with that. But it's really, like I said, it's just really 20 questions. So they'll come up and say, one person will come up and say, are you in the Northern Hemisphere? And the person will answer yes or no, and then you'll narrow it down from there, and they'll ask the question.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, and two, that ties right the teaks for us too. The teachers don't necessarily see that, the kids don't see it, but you're talking about question asking. You have good communication skills. You've got writing going on. You've got geography going on, and there's so much that's incorporated into that Mystery Skype.
Blast! I'm gonna have to share that out with everybody for sure.
Well, and so I am kind of curious though. So with the Mystery Skypes, I'm assuming these are probably folks that the students wouldn't necessarily recognize, or is it sometimes somebody who they might know the name but not the face? I mean, I'm just thinking, if you hop on there with Stephen King, there's a good chance, depending on the age level, they're going to go, oh, well, you're Stephen King.
Oh, they would know that in elementary school. These kids, things they watch.
Well, true.
Anyway, I was like, you did not really watch that, really? Oh yeah, okay. That's fine. Teach their own.
That's so true.
Fifth graders. Usually it's with people that they have not necessarily met before, but I like that idea though. That's a very good idea to do. Because we kind of talked about doing that last year with Native Americans, and each classroom took on a different Native American, and the other class had to figure out which Native American it was, like what type of tribe it was. So that's a good idea. But usually it's like out of state or out of country.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Which is funny that, your one of your pieces of advice is to work on your accent, but I'm assuming that somebody from the other country is not working on their accent, right?
It depends on how much they've Mystery Skyped. The classroom we worked with was from Mexico, so it was kind of cool because I was working in a bilingual classroom, so they started asking questions in Spanish. Now I helped out, but I was like, right on. That's awesome. So it's kind of, then it confused my kids even more because we were in Texas, but it was a bilingual classroom, so they weren't, because our district is mostly bilingual, so they weren't quite for sure where to go from there.
Sure. Yeah. Man, that's very cool. I'm like Jeff. I like the idea of the Mystery Skype too. That's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I do too. I think it's pretty neat. So let's shift gears a little bit and David had this in the show notes, and I don't know if you guys, I've been messing with the audio. Multi-ability students in classrooms. So what is multi-ability?
For me, multi-ability was just students that have various abilities, because many of our classrooms, like I said, I taught in a self-contained classroom, but if you look at most of our classrooms these days, you have a high-level learner, you've got the low-level learner, you have the special ed student, you have the regular ed student, you have every possible ability. And I want you to know, my dog is snoring. But sorry, I'm like, what is that noise? It's my dog snoring.
Wait, that wasn't popcorn. That was the dog snoring.
I'm so sorry. Anyway, and this is why I taught special ed for so long, because I fit right in. It was totally. Anyway, so like I said, I work with a lot of different teachers, but multi-ability was just saying that all students have some sort of ability, no matter where it might be on the spectrum. So even my classroom of students with abilities, they were multi-ability because they all had something to offer.
A large ELL population
Mm-hmm.
in our school district, so we're always weighing that out. With that's a big one for us in testing.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to start putting that on that when I'm in the principal's meetings. I can start to use multi-ability
Mm-hmm.
and use it in the right way.
It sounds nicer,
It does sound nicer.
I know it's politically correct, but I like it. So.
Yeah. Did you coin that?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I'm like, please don't add that.
That's right. Keep that out. Andrea Keller coins monkey ability.
I'm gonna tweet that out right now to the world. So
Tweet it out. That's right.
And then I get like
Put that
copyright.
on the Twitter.
Like then I get sued later. You did not coin that. I'm sorry. They said I did.
That's right. Yes. And what we say goes, as you can tell.
So, any apps or websites or cloud-based apps that work great for multi-ability?
So really anything. I mean, because they're just like I said with my students, our favorite thing to use is the camera. We made a ton. We used to have a little news show, and they did using iMovie. But I think that's where we have to get away from too. Is that this kid has to have that. Now, I'm not saying that certain students do not need certain apps. I'm not saying that whatsoever, because there are totally legit, fantastic things out there to help with communication skills, and so much. Like, so as a special ed teacher, I'm not saying that those apps shouldn't be out there. That's what I'm saying. But I think that we need to give the same opportunity that we give the general education student. We need to give that same opportunity to our multi-ability special education student. So if the general education classroom is connecting classrooms through Skype, then guess what? Your special ed student should be able to have that same opportunity. Is it going to look the same? Probably not. But we need to modify and adapt so they can have that chance.
Yeah, I can see that. I guess the interesting part would be most places these days need a technology curriculum coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
They need somebody there to say, okay, these are the apps that you need to use, and this
Right.
is the best way to get this to handle that. And
Right.
most districts do not have that. So it falls on someone like you or like the tech department to go, well, what about this app? I think that would be, so do you have a list anywhere of stuff that you use or?
I'm sure I can find an app. And another good place to look is anything with assistive technology. Like there's actually assistive technology specialists out there. And those are people that work specifically with kiddos that need assistive technology. But I think too, it's so interesting that assistive technology can be like overlaying a piece of paper or like the colored paper so a student can read better. Well, then we've just modified for that student. I said I've got tons of. Well, I've got so many different. My poor iPad has, I think, 600 apps on it, just because I found one and I downloaded it and I tried it and I loved it. My favorite ones, I love the Weather Channel app. I know it sounds really silly, but for my students that needed more visuals, the Weather Channel app usually had, because like I said, I worked with kindergarten through 5th grade, so I had to do lots of different things, but I still wanted them to be able to read the weather. So it has like the visual where if it's raining, it's actually raining inside the app. So that was kind of nice. So my lower level kids could choose raining, and then my higher level kids could choose what the temperature actually was. So Weather Channel app was one of my favorites. Doodle Buddy was another one of my favorites, just because they could actually doodle inside of it. So if I wanted to pass an iPad around, but Doceri is a great one too, where they can actually record their learning. I think I had my life classroom that I'm working with this last week. They took pictures inside Doceri of sight words, and then wrote the sight word, and then said the sight word. So, but that was just using the same app though that everybody else was using. So I think you just have to look at what the IEP, if the student has an IEP, and you just have to look at your big overall objective. So what's the meat of this? What do I really want to get out of it? And then how can I accommodate and modify so all my students can participate in it?
That's cool. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break and listen to a little music. This one will be from Tim Goins. My other group didn't confirm yet, but they will. When we come back, let's talk some more into the finding the right tech for the right student. I think that's a great conversation. We're talking to Andrea Keller here on the radio.edutechguys.com. We'll be right back after this musical interlude.
Wow, 20 elementary schools.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Holy cow, I can't even. And we're back right now, evidently live from radio.edutechguys.com. We appreciate you tuning in. We've had some really weird technology stuff issues going on today, but that's okay. Hey, it's par for the course, and it's only live radio. I'm here. I'm David, and Jeff is not Jeff. Greg is also live as we're sitting here, and we're here with Andrea Keller. Jeff he's here but not here. I don't know, he's like a ghost. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
He's busy working on the audio, getting us all switched back over from music.
It's funny, he's had to serve as being the producer, getting it all together, and he's actually kind of booted himself out of the picture, so that's but we digress, as we often do. I think before the musical interlude, Jeff was wanting you to discuss some of the technology being used for multi-ability. Is that where we were going? I cannot remember now. It's been longer than 30 seconds. My attention span went out the window listening to music.
I think we were talking about some different apps apps or websites that are good for multi-ability classrooms. And I was saying that I think it's important that all students have the same opportunity to
Sorry, for those of you listening,
cracking me up. I love it. You're making me get old. You're going to hear it snort soon, and I apologize now.
For those of you listening online, what you cannot see is Jeff holding up cue cards to the camera. This is awesome. Sorry to interrupt. That was just crazy.
So it really is, like I said, just having those opportunities. So a few of my favorite apps I used was the camera, because especially with my, it's amazing to see what students will take pictures of, because many of them don't necessarily have, well, actually a lot of them have smartphones. But it's amazing to see through the eyes of the student, because we don't, as teachers, we don't always have that opportunity. So a camera is a great way for students to reflect on their own life. They can record themselves for reflection. I said, that was one of the first things I gave my students. I had a digital camera. I taught them how to hold it on their wrist. Very important.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
But beyond that, I let them have at it, because my students were very good with taking good care of my stuff. And these are students with multiple abilities,
Sure.
Sorry, my husband just got home. And so a camera was one of our favorite things to use. Just give them a camera, let them take pictures, and they were so good. They learned how to focus it. They learned how to take really good pictures. And then we did a whole sensory thing one time where we were talking about our senses. And so I told the kids, I said, okay. And I said, a lot of nonverbal students. So a camera is another great way, because they're nonverbal. So, okay, show me things that smell or that sound. So I had a student take a picture of a toilet. That's totally right, because not only does it smell, but it sounds too. So I was able to understand that they totally understood what I was looking for. They understood the whole meaning, and all with just using a camera. So my other favorite apps, like I said, if you're working on spelling, there's some really good typing ones. There's just so much stuff out there. And how I found a lot of my different apps and a lot of my different people is actually just going on Twitter and finding people that are on the sped chat. The sped chat hashtag, because those are the people that I wanted to follow and then connect with. So I think just really connecting with other people, because I sure as heck don't know it all, and I sure as heck also don't have time to figure it all out.
Right.
So
Sure.
I said the Twitters is a great place for me, because then I can also springboard back and forth ideas that they might be using and that I might be using. Now, one thing I do recommend, though, hold on just a second. I want to mute myself for just a moment.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we've actually talked about in the past, is how with technology becoming so prevalent and access to information becoming so you can get access to information anywhere about just about anything. It's the fact that as a teacher, you have to be less afraid of being shown up in the classroom, of being willing to say, yeah, I don't know, but I'm sure we can find out.
Right.
Because particularly as tech people, we see that all the time where in our jobs, we just have to go, okay, I've never seen this error message before. I'll look it up on Google. And just being willing to use the technology at hand and not being afraid to be like the source of all knowledge in the classroom. You don't have to fill that role anymore, where you can admit that I don't know. Let's figure it out.
Right. Well, and I think that, as we, like you said, we've kind of talked about this before, but I think that's a key hurdle that a lot of teachers have to learn to overcome, is that of not having the answer immediately at your, in your brain in terms of immediate disposal. Yes, you can Google it, or you can reach out to Twitter or Facebook or whatever you're using for your PLN, but that you still have a lot of folks who it scares the tar out of them that they aren't going to know a particular answer to a particular question when they don't even necessarily know what the question is that they're not going to know the answer to in the first place. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, and that gets going in their head so much.
And not only that, but then they see all these other ideas like, oh, well, that teacher's doing that and that teacher's doing that. So then they take on, oh, I need to download these 50 apps. Well, that's not good for you because you're not going to know them all.
Right.
It's not good for the students either, because they're not going to know them all either. And it's going to be the whole heyday of not knowing even where to start. So when you do look at anything, I think it's important to see what your real end product is going to be. Am I really want my students to work on handwriting? Then maybe I want to download this certain app. Am I really want my kids to work on working together to do math problems? Then maybe I want to download this certain app. So there's lots of different things that you have to look at as well, is that it's not just about, let's put 50 apps on the iPad for the kids to play with,
Right.
Yeah, we actually have a term for that we use at the department. We call it here's an app, where you just start throwing apps at it, and you've got here's an app and here's an app and here's an app and here's an app, and you have no structure and you have no overall plan, and you have no real idea of why use these apps or why use them in conjunction with one another. You're just throwing apps at the problem, and that, especially whenever you first get the tool and you can get really excited about it and you just start loading a whole bunch of apps on there, yeah, you can hit app overload.
Exactly. But there are
Right, yeah.
students, and if you do have students that are that need that iPad or device as a voice output device, like Proloquo to Go is really great.
How do you spell that?
PRO Proloquo to Go.
Proloquo. That's got way too many vowels, consonants, something in there.
Proloquo. I can't even know. We're all Googling it now. What's the
Proloquo? Okay, there it is.
I think that's how you spell it. But there's some other things out there as well. When I worked with my kids on looking at different, there's so many. It really depends on the student, and it really depends on what you're trying to go for.
Hey guys, sorry about that. We had a major little glitch there. Kind of lost all of our audio and all of our video, and we're currently in the middle of trying to get it back, which I don't think I'm going to be able to. We'll see, I guess, if we're lucky. Dan, boy howdy, I don't know if I'll be able to. Yeah, what a mess. Hey, listen, sorry about that. We've had some definitely weird technology hangups. With all of this good stuff, and we will attempt to fix everything. I tell you what, we'll have to make this up to Andrea Keller. It was great to have her on the show. We'll put up the podcast in just a bit, so that we can make sure that you get to hear the rest of the show, see what's going down. Hopefully I can recover most of this show, and hopefully it's still out there in the great big wide world of stuff. I'll try to pull it back up. We'll put it out there as soon as we can. So thanks for listening to radio.edutechguys.com. We'll see you in the funny papers.
You've been listening to EduTech Guys Radio, radio.edutechguys.com.
The opinions expressed on the site and this program are those of participants and not intended to and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of any specific educational entity, sponsor, company, state, or government agency.